when I looked back, I saw Jimmy. He was there. He was there on the floor.
She says, I saw two sisters and one brother from Poland who were mourning the death of their two other siblings. The youngest was crying and the other two just didn't know how to react.
Like a priest, it's really to touch the very deep identity of the French people, and that's why it was really a very big shock for everybody.
I feel guilty about screaming about my legs in pain because I could feel nothing, like the other 49 who weren't so lucky to feel this pain of mine. The guilt of being alive is heavy.
Just a few of the victims of terror. We continue from Milwaukee for the full hour with Donald Trump as we talk about protecting the homeland. And joining us now, we have victims of terror to tell their story. Joining us here, Karen McWaters, her husband Kevin. And Karen, you lost your leg in the Boston bombing.
I did.
Tell us your story.
I went to see my husband Kevin run, and we got a nice spot right at the finish line. I was with a dear friend, Crystal, and we were all having a great time. The marathon's always a fun day and lots of celebration and fun. And we were at the site of the first bombing. So when the first bomb went off, when I lost my leg, and actually I didn't lose it right away, but I hurt my leg, and Crystal died there, and then we were awake to hear the second bombing, and then after that it was just chaos. It was a close friend, yes.
What do you think when you heard Mr. Trump's speech, you hear the president that can't say radical Islamic terror?
It's really upsetting. I don't think it's helpful. I think if we don't speak honestly and clearly about what's happening, that we can't solve the issue. And I think that he is so concerned that Muslims are all going to be targeted, or I'm assuming he thinks that. But I lost my leg. I don't blame all Muslims because I lost my leg. I understand the difference between radicalized people and people who are of peace.
No, Donald Trump, who's sitting right here, talked about extreme vetting of people that come from countries that practice Sharia, which is the antithesis of our own Constitution. Is that something that you think this country, what would you like to tell them?
Well, we're just allowing people into our country that some are going to be a problem. And we have enough problems in our country right now, and you people are really proof positive. What you've gone through, it's unimaginable. I watched the Boston bombing so many times on television, how somebody could do that, how they got them on tape. It was genius police work, how they got them to start off with, but you know how they caught them. But when you see them walking along like they haven't got a problem in the world, and they're looking to do mass destruction. And when I see that, I want to do something about it. I want to do something about it.
Dorothy Woods, there are two. This guy is a very close friend now of mine, and she's become a close friend. This is Chris Tanto Peranto. He is one of the heroes of Benghazi. Dorothy's husband, Ty Woods, was also one of the heroes. You remember, sure, Mr. Trump, that they were given a stand-down order. Sure. They all risked their careers, and they said, we're not standing down when Americans are under fire, while Hillary Clinton was debating whether to ask the Libyan government permission and whether or not they could go in uniform. You lost your husband that day, and your husband went to protect people that he knew were under assault at that compound. And he will tell you, and others that I have interviewed, that your husband saved a lot of people's lives.
He did. Really, I'm here this evening because of Benghazi. And you know, as a victim, there was a lack, under Hillary Clinton, the State Department, there was a lack of security planning and decision-making up to and during that night. The Obama administration lacked strategic action because they felt like there wasn't enough time to help them. You know, Americans died. My husband died saving American lives. We're at war against Islamic, radical Islam, here and abroad. So, you know, we have men and women out there in dangerous places serving our country, and they don't have confidence that we're going to see them or that we're going to save them.
I want to remind the audience, though, and Chris, you can talk to this, because your husband was a hero. Your husband defied orders, risked his entire career. You did the same thing. You were told to stand down, correct?
Yeah, and Ty is a hero. He's
and
not
Ty
was
is a hero. He is a hero. That's right. But here's what we've now learned since there were 600 separate requests for security that were denied before while Great Britain and the Red Cross left because things were so bad.
Remember them pulling out, yeah.
And then during the attack, there were multiple requests. This was all being seen in live video. And then afterwards, you were in Germany, you told me that they said this was a spontaneous demonstration.
First thing I saw, and I told people I would turn on the TV, and I saw Susan Rice and her on TV saying it was due to some video and some protest. And I'll be honest, I didn't get angry. I turned the TV off, and because of all the things that I've seen over those years of deploying under the Obama administration, I turned it off. I just said par for the course. I went back to bed. Yeah. So it was almost like I expected to see them start to cover it up. And then it just steamrolled from there.
Unbelievable. What would you like to tell Mr. Trump about what needs to change?
You know, I believe in the vetting process. I do. Now, the terrorists, and I've been deploying for 10 years, the terrorists overseas utilize our strengths, which are compassion and empathy, against us.
True.
That's what they're doing right now. So I do agree that vetting is necessary. I also agree that and when you speak of the Muslim community, you're right, not all Muslims are bad, but the Muslim community in America, they are Americans because they're here. They need to start speaking out publicly and condemning. So
let me bring in.
I do believe that.
Kimberly Munley. Kimberly, how many times were you shot at Fort Hood, which, by the way, was workplace violence and not terrorism? How many times were you shot?
3 times.
3 times. And also we have Howard Ray, and you were a survivor of Fort Hood.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Tell us your stories, Kimberly.
As you may remember, November 5th, 2009, there was, I got the call as shots fired, multiple injuries, and arriving on scene, engaged the shooter, shot him twice. He still shot me 3 times.
Did you hear him yell Allahu Akbar?
I did not personally. Where he started the massacre at inside the building, when I engaged him, was outside of the building. I never spoke a word to him. He never spoke a word to me. After I went down, my weapon malfunctioned from the impact of falling, and he walked up to me and put his gun to my head and pulled his trigger, and his malfunctioned as well.
And you had to get a new... Wow. Wow. What's your story?
The day of November 5th, 2009, I had showed up to the SRP site and Soldier Readiness Processing Station. And I was actually there for an appointment in a building just adjacent to where the shooting initially took place. I heard the shots ring out, and I was like, well, this isn't right. And so took action to make sure that I got all of my fellow soldiers and coworkers and group facilitator out of the building. It was quite chaotic. What ended up happening was a woman ended up freezing out the door on the way out, and I realized it is from experience that she froze up. She's lost. I grabbed her. We run out back, and there was someone that yelled, "He's coming around! He's coming around!" And so that day I was in civilian clothes. I reached back for my pistol. I had very good opportunity and time to take care of the situation. Looked down into an empty holster, only to tell the woman who is now in total tears and crying as she should because it was such a terrifying situation where I said, we got to go, and so we ended up running across the backside of the parking lot. I put myself in front of her. He came around the corner, raised his gun, and I said, well, here it is. And ultimately, I ended up unscathed, but subsequently got her to safety. I was given an award for saving the lives of my colleagues that day.
These are the victims of real-life terror that is hurting our homeland. San Bernardino, Orlando, Chattanooga, abroad, France, Germany, Belgium, all of Europe. The impact immigration has on this, vetting refugees, is it possible? We want to thank our guests for being here. Thank you so much for telling and sharing your stories.